Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. So in this video I am just going to go through all of the Blu-rays and the 4Ks that I've picked up in October 2024. So yeah, let's get into it. So first up we have, this is an upgrade from DVD. This is an Alfred Hitchcock film and it is The 39 Steps. So yeah, this is one of Hitchcock's early films from his British era. It's basically about this guy who gets framed for murder and has to go on the run. It's a classic sort of Hitchcock trope. He uses it again in lots of his films, but this is probably one of my favourites from him. It's certainly, for me, probably his best of his British era, but yeah, it's just a lot of fun, good sort of adventure. The character he ends up all over the UK in this film. It's got a bit of comedy in there as well. It's just a really enjoyable little movie. So yeah, that is The 39 Steps. Next up we have The Getaway, starring Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger. This is a remake of The Getaway starring Steve McQueen. Yeah, this is a fairly recent release here in the UK, but this is a movie I've always enjoyed. I remember having it on VHS back in the day. And yeah, I just really enjoy this film, and I know it's probably blasphemous to say this, but I actually kind of enjoy it a little bit more than the Steve McQueen one. It's just a great sort of gritty, neo-noir type thriller from the early 90s, and you know, it's got a really good cast, it's got some good action scenes in there, and overall it's just a lot of fun. The only sort of downside to this Blu-ray is that it is cut, unfortunately, so there's a very infamous sex scene in this movie between Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger. Unfortunately, that scene is cut pretty much in half, so it doesn't really take away from the film, but it's just a bit sad because it's not really a complete version of the movie, but still glad to have it nonetheless. It's a nice upgrade from that old VHS. So yeah, that is The Getaway. Next up we have a Spanish import, and this is for a movie I haven't seen in the longest time, probably about 20 years. And it's a movie I got thinking about again and I wanted to revisit it. So it's a movie called Hideway, starring Jeff Goldblum and Alicia Silverstone. Jeff Goldblum plays this guy who is in a car crash at the beginning of the movie. He ends up dying, basically, or at least he dies for a few minutes whilst he's on the operating table. And the doctor working on him is able to bring him back. But after he comes back, he finds that he's developed this psychic link with a serial killer. So it's not the most original of concepts. I know we've seen it a lot in movies. The Eyes of Laura Mars is a movie that comes to mind that this one really reminds me of. But I just think this is a really enjoyable thriller from the mid-90s. Very underrated. I don't think a lot of people really know too much about this one. But I remember seeing it on, I think it was like ITV1 or ITV2 back in the early 2000s, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, on a rewatch, I still really enjoyed it. It's got some dodgy special effects in there. Some CGI doesn't really hold up, but it doesn't take away too much from the movie. But yeah, overall, it's just a really fun 90s serial killer thriller with Jeff Goldblum. So yeah, that is Hideway. Next up, we have one from the Treasured Film label, I think it is, and we have The Island. So yeah, this is a movie I didn't really know too much about, but I was kind of drawn to the cover and also the cast. You've got Michael Caine in this, and you've got David Warner. It's basically about Michael Caine's character. He's on this like boating trip with his son, and they end up getting captured by these pirates who take them to this island, and they won't let them leave because they basically want them to join their tribe so they can keep, you know, the tribe alive, you know, through like procreation and all that kind of things, all those kinds of things. Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in this film. It starts off really well, it ends really well, but the middle is a bit of a drag for me. I mean, Michael Caine spends the whole movie basically in handcuffs or like tied up somewhere. And there's just not that much action, and it's at 2 hours it just feels a little bit too long. But you know, when it does have some action and some violence, it is pretty good, but yeah, it just takes a little while to get there. Really nice release from Treasured Films nonetheless, but yeah, the film was just okay for me. So yeah, that is The Island. Next up we have a German import, and again this is another upgrade from DVD. and this is for the movie Mermaids. This stars Cher, Winona Ryder, Bob Hoskins, and Christina Ricci. And yeah, this is a favourite of mine. This is a comfort movie, a bit of a guilty pleasure. I just really enjoy this film. It's basically about this single mother played by Cher and her two daughters played by Winona Ryder and Christina Ricci, and they're always travelling around America. They can never really settle in one town for too long. But at the beginning of the film, they end up settling in this small New England town. And the movie's mostly about Winona Ryder's character, sort of, coming of age and wanting to kind of, finally stay put where they are and just, while she's developing as a teenager. And it kind of just goes through many different things. You've also got Bob Hoskins in there, who plays this local guy who has a relationship with Cher and he wants to kind of be part of the family. And yeah, there's just all sorts of little things going on. But yeah, it's just a really enjoyable coming of age comedy drama film. It's just a pleasant watch. It's something you can put on a Sunday afternoon and you don't really have to think about it too much. Just a really good film. Great acting from all the cast, and yeah, like I said, a favourite of mine that I'm very glad to have on Blu-ray now. So yeah, that is Mermaids. Next up, we have a classic horror film that I'm ashamed to say I have never seen this before, and it is the original Nosferatu from, I think, about 1922. Yeah, I picked this up mainly because we are getting a new one directed by Robert Eggers in a few months, and it's always been a film that I've been meaning to check out. I've just never really been the biggest fan of like the silent movie era. I know it's an important era in films, but I find that a lot of them don't really provide a lot of entertainment for me, but I still want to watch this nonetheless. I opted to get the BFI version of this because I think it has the updated musical score in it. Because I think the original version of the film, the original score from that is basically lost, and I can't watch a silent film without a little bit of music. So I opted to get this one because I feel like it will probably provide a little bit more of an entertainment factor to me. But yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out. That is Nosferatu. So over the last month or so, I've been revisiting the James Bond movies. It's a franchise of films that I absolutely adore. But when I got to the end of it, I realised that I still didn't have this movie. And this was actually a first-time rewatch since I saw it in the cinema. And that is No Time to Die. Yeah, I remember seeing this in the cinema and not really liking it, but I wasn't really all that surprised because I've never really been the biggest fan of the Daniel Craig era of James Bond films. And yeah, it's taken me about 3 years since then to actually pick this up and rewatch it. And yeah, I still feel very much the same about it. I'm not really too bothered about some of the controversial things in this movie, mainly the ending. That doesn't really bother me. I just think the film, like a lot of the Daniel Craig films, is just a bit of a drag. It's a bit too serious and a bit too melancholy and a little bit boring and overlong. And yeah, this one, clocking in at nearly 3 hours, it definitely feels way too long for me. I'm more of a classic Bond fan. Anything prior to like the Pierce Brosnan films, I just absolutely love. But still glad to have it in the collection. I can't be a Bond fan without having them all. So yeah, that is No Time to Die. Next up, we have another upgrade from DVD. This one is a German import, and it is for Rat Race. Yeah, this is a classic comedy film from the early 2000s. It's about this character played by John Cleese. He's like a billionaire, and he gets this group of people together in Las Vegas, and he makes them go on this race across the country, and whoever is the winner of the race will win a large sum of money. And yeah, it's just a fun movie. You got a huge ensemble cast in there. You got the likes of Rowan Atkinson, Whoopi Goldberg, Seth Green, and so many other people. And yeah, it's just a really fun movie. So many different things going on, so many crazy situations with a lot of the characters. And yeah, I know it's a bit silly. It's not the most, intelligent of films, but I just have such a good time whenever I watch it. So yeah, that is Rat Race. Another import now, this one from Spain, and we have Silver Streak, starring Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. So yeah, this is the first movie that starred the two classic actors who, had such great chemistry together. I picked this up mainly because we are getting a box set from Indicator later in November, which has Stir Crazy, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and Another You. I have that on pre-order. I was a little bit disappointed that Silver Streak wasn't included, but I know it's down to rights and that sort of thing. So yeah, I decided to get this one on Blu-ray. I do really like this film. I would say that it is more of a Gene Wilder film than a Richard Pryor one. Richard Pryor doesn't really appear in the film until about halfway through. And also, it's maybe not as comedic as their other films. It feels a lot more like a Hitchcockian thriller. It's got a bit of North by Northwest in there, but it's still a really fun movie. Gene Wilder's great in it, and yeah, again, it's another one of those films that you can put on like a Saturday or a Sunday if you're feeling a bit bored, and yeah, you can just have a good time with it. Yeah, really good movie. That is Silver Streak. Next up, we have another import, this one from Germany, and this is for a movie that I saw for the first time about a year ago, and I was really, really impressed with it, and I've been wanting to pick it up on Blu-ray ever since, and now I finally have. And it's a movie called Year of the Dragon. So this is a film that came out in, I think, around about 1987. It's directed by Michael Cimino, who's probably best known for directing The Deer Hunter, and then more infamously, Heaven's Gate. But yeah, this is a sort of a police thriller starring Mickey Rourke. He's basically this police detective who's trying to crack down on the local Chinese, the organized crime, basically, and the drug dealing that's going on with that. And yeah, I just think this is a really good, solid thriller, very gritty in places. The violence is quite extreme at times, but just a fantastic film, very underrated. And yeah, I think if you like your police thrillers, maybe something along the lines of The French Connection, this is something very similar. But yeah, fantastic film, and I can't wait to rewatch it. So that is Year of the Dragon. Right, so on to the 4Ks now, and the first one we have here is a new release from 88 Films, and it is the original American Pie. Yeah, I did an unboxing for this one, so if you want to check that video out, I'll leave a link in the description below. But yeah, I said all I needed to say in that video. Yeah, I just love this movie. Again, it's another comfort watch, something of a guilty pleasure, I suppose, even though I don't think, you know, I wouldn't really put it in that bracket necessarily. Just think it's a great teen comedy from the late 90s, and one that's very special to me. So yeah, that is American Pie on 4K. Next up, we have a movie that I absolutely love. This is a brand new 4K release. I think after The Hitcher, this is probably my favourite road movie, and it is Breakdown, starring Kurt Russell. This is a fantastic thriller from 1997. Kurt Russell plays this man who is driving across country with his wife. Their car breaks down. A truck driver comes by and offers to give his wife a lift to the local gas station so that she can call for help, which she does. In the meantime, Kurt Russell is able to get the car working again. He drives to the gas station. His wife is nowhere to be seen, and neither is the truck driver. And yeah, it kind of starts out like a bit of a mystery, and then it escalates a lot more once we find out what's really going on. But yeah, this is a fantastic movie, very tense, very suspenseful, and it all builds to just a fantastic ending. And Kurt Russell is brilliant in it, and yeah, just so glad to have it on 4K because I absolutely love this movie. So yeah, that is Breakdown. Next up, we have The Crow on 4K. This is one I got in the 2 for 30 deal in HMV. Yeah, this is, again, another upgrade straight from DVD for me. I never had this one on Blu-ray. And yeah, this is a very popular film. It's the last one starring Brandon Lee before he sadly passed away during the making of the film. He plays this musician who he is murdered along with his fiancée, but then he rises from the grave and takes this persona as the Crow, and he basically just goes back to take revenge on the people who murdered him and his fiancée. And yeah, it's a great little film. It's never been one of my all-time favourites, but I still really, really enjoy this one. The director, I much prefer his film that he made after this, which is Dark City, but this is still a really good film from him. Very, very gritty, very dark in places, and yeah, just a really enjoyable film, and it looks really good on 4K. So that is The Crow. Next up, we have Friday the 13th Part 2 on 4K. This is the first one in the Friday the 13th series that has Jason as the killer. And yeah, this is probably my favourite Friday the 13th film. I really, really like this one. I enjoy it a lot more than the first one. It kind of takes like everything that was great about the first one, and for me it just makes it bigger and better. I much prefer Jason as a killer, and I really like the cast in this one. But the thing I like best about this movie is that it feels so similar to the first one in terms of how it looks, the tone, even the locations they use. It kind of feels like this film was shot at the exact same time as the first one. It's a bit uncanny in places, but yeah, I love this movie. And I'm hoping we get to see a few more of these on 4K. I think, you know, it would be nice to see at least parts 3 and 4 to go along with this and part 1 on 4K. But yeah, that is Friday the 13th part 2 on 4K. And the other film that I picked up on the 2 for 30 deal along with The Crow is a movie that I've known about this movie for a long time, especially because I'm a big fan of a lot of the other films in this series, if you like. But I picked this up mainly on the recommendation of Ash from Popcorn and Horror. He picked this up a few months ago, and you know, he said how much he really enjoyed this one, and it kind of made me want to check it out even more. And it is King Kong. This is the one from 1976, starring Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange. Basically, sort of, you know, a remake of King Kong for the 1970s. And yeah, overall, I had a good time with this one. I wouldn't say it's my favourite King Kong film, but it does have a lot of good moments in it. It's got a good cast. It's shot very well. And yeah, overall, it's just a really good time. And yeah, I enjoyed it. Can't really say much more than that. So that is King Kong on 4K. Next up, we have Nightmare on Elm Street on 4K. This is the really lovely box set version from Warner Brothers. Yeah, I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't need to say too much about the movie. It's a classic horror film from the 80s, one of the best Wes Craven films. You know, it started, well, it was the beginning of, you know, this huge franchise with Freddy Krueger, and yeah, I love the movie, and I was always going to get it on 4K. The 4K is really good. The only thing that I didn't like about this was the Dolby Atmos soundtrack. Now, it could be down to the system I have, but for me, I felt like the Dolby Atmos soundtrack altered the sort of, you know, how the soundtrack's supposed to be. There were parts of the film where like pieces of music were missing and certain sound effects were different, and it just didn't really feel like the same movie to me at times. So I ended up watching most of it with the original soundtrack in there. That's definitely my preferred way to watch it. But other than that, really nice release from Warner Brothers, and yeah, great film. If you've not seen Nightmare on Elm Street, definitely check it out. So yeah, that is Nightmare on Elm Street on 4K. Next up, we have a new release from Arrow Video, and it is Trick or Treat, the classic anthology film about Halloween. This one came out, I think, about 2007. And this film over the years has become a staple for me when it comes to Halloween. I think along with Halloween 3, this is a movie I always watch, or I at least try to watch on Halloween nights. Just a fantastic film, puts a different spin on the whole anthology genre, in that the whole film takes place in this town, but it follows different characters throughout Halloween night, but all of their stories kind of eventually sort of connect together. And yeah, it's all kind of glued together by the main villain of the film, I suppose, which is Sam, who's basically like this little sort of pumpkin character. But yeah, it's just such great fun, this movie. It's got elements of horror in there, but it's also got a lot of comedy. I do find this film very, very funny. Sometimes maybe unintentionally funny, but yeah, just a great film to watch on Halloween. So yeah, that is Trick or Treat. Next up, we have a new release from Scream Factory. This one actually arrived today, being the 1st of November, but I thought I'd just show it in this video. And it is Shocker, directed by Wes Craven. This is a film that was released in 1989, and it's basically about this serial killer played by Mitch Pileggi, who is probably best known for playing Skinner in The X-Files. He's about to be executed, but when he does get executed, he ends up sort of becoming electricity, and he's able to return from the dead via electricity to carry on his killing spree. And there's another character played by Peter Berg. He's the main character, and he has this uncanny ability to fight back against him. Yeah, I absolutely love this film. I think other than Elm Street and Scream, this is probably my favorite Wes Craven film. My God, this film is the epitome of crazy. It is manic, it's over the top, it's incredibly silly, but I just absolutely love every minute of it. It's just so fun. It's got a bit of everything. It's got some very gross gore in here, elements of horror, but then lots of comedy. And yeah, like I said, it's just very, very silly. And you can probably tell by the concept alone, it is a silly film. But yeah, I just love this one, and I can't wait to rewatch it. So yeah, that is Shocker. Next up, we have another release from Scream Factory, and we have The Stepfather. This is a great thriller from the late 80s. It stars Terry O'Quinn. He plays this guy who murders his family, and then he basically disappears from the authorities, and he ends up starting a new life with another family. But all the while, you know, the authorities are trying to track him down, basically, and yeah, it's all about him sort of trying to sort of carry on with this new family, but his psychotic tendencies keep sort of coming back to haunt him, and he can't quite get away from sort of the killer that he is. Yeah, it's a great film. I think it was inspired by an actual true story that happened in America, where I forget the guy's name, but this guy killed his whole family, but he planned the crime so meticulously and so down to the detail that he was able to get away before the authorities even knew what had happened. And I think he ended up being on the run for about 12 years, maybe even longer. And he as well started a new family. And it was only through like sort of advancements in technology and all that kind of stuff that they were able to find him. But yeah, like I said, this is a great little thriller from the 80s. Yeah, a lot of fun, very dark in places as well. So yeah, that is The Stepfather. And then lastly, we have another 4K release from Scream Factory, another new one, and it is Village of the Damned. This is a film from the 90s, directed by John Carpenter. Basically a remake of Village of the Damned from, I think it was the 1950s. And yeah, it's basically about these kids that basically appear out of nowhere after this small town have gone through this very strange event, and these kids just appear after it, and as you can imagine, they start causing chaos the longer the film goes on. I won't say that this is one of my favourite John Carpenter films. In fact, I would probably say it's one of his worst films, but I'm such a huge fan of him that I had to have this. And I do like aspects of this film. I think the first half of it is really, really good. I love the sort of the scenes where the town basically falls asleep and the government have to come in to see what's happened. I love all of that stuff and a lot of the mystery in the first half. It kind of falls apart for me a little bit in the second half, but I'm hoping maybe on a rewatch I might enjoy it a little bit more. So yeah, another great release from Scream Factory. Unfortunately, mine came a little bit damaged. Yeah, I don't know if you can see this, but yeah, this case is just completely crushed and broken. Let me know in the comments below where I can get replacement Scream Factory cases from, because I know you can get them from Scream Factory, but they only dispatch to America. So I can't really go down that route. So yeah, if anyone knows, let me know where I can get replacement 4K covers from Scream Factory from. But yeah, like I said, great little film from John Carpenter. Not one of his best, but I still enjoy it. That is Village of the Damned on 4K. So there you go, guys. Those are all of the Blu-rays and 4Ks that I have purchased in the month of October 2024. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen any of these movies. Have you picked up any of these particular releases? I would love to hear your thoughts. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you all again on the next one very soon. So take care, guys.